I'm of two minds on this. One, I thought, well, the most troubling part of the season was when everybody was still healthy and you were playing like the worst Power 4 team in the country with all of those players. So I don't know that that's a totally fair characterization of what happened this season, but I mean, he is right that they could use more depth. That's going to take money. Hello and welcome into another edition of Three Maw. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young and Cole Manbeck. We didn't do a live post-game after the game on Saturday. Some Thanksgiving festivities going on. Our schedules didn't quite sync up, so we're here to talk about K-State's 24-14 win over Colorado. Wildcats get bowl eligible in what was a pretty dull and fairly boring effort. Chris Klieman, in fact, even called it flat at times. We'll break it all down. It's going to be brought to you by our good friends at Holiday Distillery, who bring you Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon and 360 vodka. So for all your basketball watch parties, or if you're just sitting by the fireplace, it's snowing here in Kansas City as I look outside right now. Nice time to just kick back by the fireplace, enjoy some Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon. So thank you to our good friends at Holiday Distillery for that. All right. Were you pouring back a lot of Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon, living the sweet life at the game, Cole, on Saturday?
No, I didn't actually, did not have a drink on Saturday during the game. Was drinking hot cocoa. It was really refreshing, just looking out at the snow. What, DY? I can't have some hot cocoa.
Well, do you need hot cocoa when you're sitting in warm, heated press box suite?
So let me tell you just how we're built a little bit different. The window was cracked. So I'm in the front, and there's a nice Arctic wind coming through, and so it's pretty chilly, man. A lot of people had blankets on. I did not. I manned the conditions. No, I just sounded good. I wasn't cold. I felt for everybody that was out there in the conditions and the elements. And
seems like a very old thing to do, to drink a hot cocoa as you're watching K-State football. You've changed.
Well, if the circumstances were different, and that was like the KU game in 2022 where a Big 12 title berth was on the line, I can assure everybody that I would have been drinking Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon and would have had the nervous energy. But I was not really emotionally engaged in this game. It has been a weird season where I have woke up on Saturdays and not have had that nervous energy like I'm so accustomed to having. That went away probably post KU game. I mean, once they got the KU game out of the way, it didn't really have that anymore.
So Kansas State being flat as a team, Cole cannot complain because he was pretty flat as a fan, as he just admitted.
I was flat as a fan because that's what they turned me into this year. But yeah,
all of us really.
Well, I just wanted everybody to know that while you were out there toughing it in the conditions, Cole was once again in the comforts of a suite, and didn't even want to go do that. Vanessa had to push him to actually go there and be at the game. So, that you bring up that KU game in 2022, Cole. I was out there in the elements with everybody. It was rainy and cold. It was kind of a miserable day.
John, I was out there too. I was sitting in section 11 with the people. This was the first year that I was, not out with the people most of the time. But I did get my certificate for perfect attendance this year as well. So, did not miss a home game. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Very good. So there were some things accomplished on Saturday, ladies and gentlemen, as in K-State is going bowling. Also, that is a thing. I don't know, DY, your thoughts. K-State outgained just barely by Colorado, 323 to 321. They came out, scored right away. Had a nice long touchdown drive and felt like, okay, well, that seemed all right. Colorado's offense was not doing a whole lot, but then K-State's offense really went into a shell for a long time. And I know Chris Klieman said after the game that was the point where he thought things were flat for the offense for a while, and they had to really challenge them and get them to actually block, and they blocked some things up that are in the second half. I mean, Joe Jackson was very good, but to me, that's kind of the summary of the game right there in a nutshell. It can encompass most of it.
Yeah, Chris Klieman called him flat. Chris Peterson, a longtime football coach for Washington and Boise State, was in the studio for Fox during the halftime and called it uninspired. And I would say that if I'm going to say if anyone was flat and uninspired, I do agree that it was more offensive directed towards them, because I thought the defense was really flowing and running to the football pretty well, at least early. There was I think a period in the game where things got a little wonky on them as well. They had that 3rd and 17 screen pass that they gave up, which allowed Colorado, I think, one of their scoring possessions of the game. So, but I have a hard time directing anger towards the defense, because to me it felt like all day Colorado really didn't have much of an offense. Now they haven't the entire season, so it's not to say that the defense stepped up and stopped this vaunted offense. It's definitely not that. But Colorado, they had less than 5 yards of play. Like they weren't getting much. They only 3.2 yards a carry, and that's with Salter getting loose a couple times, I think. So they couldn't run the ball. Probably more of the same for their entire season. But I'm not going to throw anything at the defense. I think the offense was once again disappointing. And to do it after you just put up 47 against Utah on the road, and then before that, you also only scored 14 on Oklahoma State on the road. Like, you just don't know what you're going to get from this offense. It's as inconsistent as it comes. It just seems like they're throwing darts and shooting from the hip and hoping something works. There's really not a process or a system or something that they can hang their hat on. I agree. Joe Jackson ran pretty well again. It makes you wonder what was kind of going on before that. Maybe he was banged up, but some of it was vision related too. So that's not really health related unless he had something going on with his eyes. Because remember, we saw many holes that he was missing as well. It wasn't just that he didn't have the burst to get there. No turnovers in the game for either side. Well, no, Colorado had one, right?
They threw a pick. They threw a really bad pick.
Colorado. No, I guess nobody. Nobody scored off a turnover, so it was clean in that regard. Kansas State was a perfect 4-4 in the red zone, despite the offense really, again, a disappointment. Interesting enough, I just saw this too. Like, Colorado didn't get called for one penalty the entire game.
It's a disciplined group over there in Boulder. Yeah, what I expect. I thought they when Colorado took the field, by the way, I thought they brought 40 players. You guys weren't there actually, so or John wasn't for sure, but when they took the field, they hardly had anybody out there, and so it was funny to see that. DY the K-State running game halftime, I think they had 67 yards on 21 carries, like 3 yards a carry. It was pretty disappointing that on the heels of what they did to Utah and thinking they found something there to where it looked more like an outlier than anything. Second half, they did turn it on and they finished with over 200 yards. Joe Jackson really effective in the second half. I can't remember his yardage total at halftime, but in the second half, I think he rushed for almost 100 yards and about 7 yards per carry. And the final 30 minutes, Joe Jackson has definitely turned a corner. He was physical in this game with how he was running the football. Chris Klieman said after the game, against Utah, he was running through just open holes. That was different. And in this game, he said he was an actual running back. He was running through tackles, putting guys on their back, and playing physical smash mouth football. So credit to Joe Jackson, who now on the season, guys, over 900 yards rushing and 5.4 yards per carry. Looks like a perfectly fine season from your supposed number 2 running back. So we'll see what to make of Joe Jackson moving forward, of Kansas State, what they do in the portal, et cetera. But I think Joe Jackson would be a worthy piece to bring back for this football team. On the defensive side of the ball, DY, I have a little bit of a different take. To me, it felt kind of similar to Oklahoma State. I thought Colorado just didn't capitalize several times. I mean, Colorado's first 5 drives went inside the K-State 40-yard line, all 5 of them.
Yeah, 2 of those were from terrible penalty calls.
Yeah, I remember those.
Ended the drive beforehand. Yeah.
I remember the one, the Cheaty roughing the passer. That was a bad one. What was the other one?
The face mask was a good call. There was one other. I forget.
Yeah, so 7 of their 9 drives in the game end up in Kansas State's territory. Like, it felt like, considering the conditions, Colorado moved the ball somewhat effectively. About the defense, should have been better. But, at the end of the day, they give up 14 points. Bad Colorado team. Win a game by 10, but a little concerning that you're up by 3 points with 4 or 5 minutes left in the game against a team you're favored by 17.5 against. It just felt like another situation where you just kind of play down to the level of your opponent. There's just no consistency.
The Joe Jackson conversation, I think, is interesting now because, well, one, I did want to say, the Discord was hard on DY for saying he thought Joe Jackson might have more rushing yards than Dylan Edwards at the beginning of the season. So take a bow on that one, DY.
Yeah.
Joe Jackson, though, if you're going to bring him back, what do you have to tell? Like, is this, I guess my question, Cole, is do you have to tell Joe Jackson, like, you're going to be the feature guy next year if he's going to come back? And is that something based on 2 games here at the end of the year that you're willing to commit to?
I mean, I'll let DY weigh in too, but I think you got to tell him you got to go earn it. I mean, here's your body of work. You didn't play well for the first 10 games. I mean, give or take, there were some games in there where I'm sure Joe Jackson played better than others, but you got to be more consistent if you want to be the featured back. You got to show it game in and game out like you did these last 2 games, and you'll win the job. But obviously, we're going to bring in other talent and pieces in the running back room. They're gonna probably overhaul JB Price, first to enter the portal yesterday, or announced intentions to enter the portal. Don't think you can officially do it yet, but the redshirt freshman will be moving on, and DY's talked about it before. But like, there are probably going to be a lot of new bodies in the running back room. So, I think Joe Jackson is one you'd like to retain, and you tell him that you got to go earn the job. We'd like to have you back, but no guarantees. You can't guarantee anything to anybody on this team. They all have to go earn it.
I would definitely tell him that he's going to have to go win the job, and we're going to bring in guys that you'll compete with. Does that keep him here? Does that because he could probably go get an assurance from somewhere else that he'd be the guy. That is the dilemma.
Yeah, Utah might call him. Utah might like him.
I just think I don't think he's better than Wayshawn Parker. But
no, because he ran for 293 yards on the.
I get it. Yeah, I'm aware.
John just didn't think it was funny.
I chuckled. I chuckled a little bit. You got a bit of a chuckle out of me. I think that is kind of the situation. I just wonder, some of that it'll come down to, and look, this is where Chris Klieman, I think his relationship with the players can help, because I think that would come down to, how badly does Joe Jackson want to be here versus just go taking, what he would perceive to be the best opportunity for playing time or money or whatever. But it's a really interesting one, because the Joe Jackson that I saw the last 2 weeks of the season, I'm like, dude, that looks like a guy, and I'm all for being a developmental program and keeping those guys around, but it is hard for me to trust, because it's just like this whole team, it wasn't just that they weren't winning games. They were like really bad, looked really, really bad. And it's not just that, Joe Jackson wasn't Dylan Edwards. He looked really bad for a lot of the season. So it's hard for me to know exactly what to make of him by the end of this year. So look, I would love him back. But I definitely want a starting caliber running back out of the portal as well. So as long as that can all work together, I'm okay with it, I suppose.
What would you do if you're Joe Jackson?
Again, I think a lot of that comes down to how much do you like the situation that you're in with Chris Klieman and K-State. I'm sure if I'm Joe Jackson, I'm also wanting to know who's my quarterback going to be. Like, am I coming back to play with Avery Johnson? Is Jace Brown going to be there? Like, what's this offense going to look like?
You were talking about the portal. It opens January 2nd, so that's why there's not a whole lot of sense of urgency just yet, because guys, basically, the way I understand it, since it doesn't open until January 2nd, basically have a full month still to decide if they want to go in or out. Now, there is some pros and cons to that, right? Like, one, Kansas State has plenty of time to convince them not to enter the portal, but two, other schools have plenty of time to convince them to go into the portal too. Right, Cole?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they got all month to work the back channels. We know how this goes. So Kansas State can do the same, of course, but that's what's going to happen. So it's just the state of college football. And, Chris Klieman talked about the state of college football when asked by your employee, Mason both on the post-game press conference on Saturday. I thought he pressed Chris Klieman a little bit and, some interesting insight and responses that Klieman gave.
Yeah, the one thing about it is because of when the portal now opens, that you probably will have your full complement of players. There will be less opt-outs given that, though.
Yeah, well, yeah. Hey, man, we made it 16 minutes without even talking about a bowl game, huh? Yeah, where the Cats going to be going bowling? That's not going to be the top storyline today, ladies and gentlemen. What it is, though, is I want to focus on something that Chris Klieman said in that post-game press conference when we come back.
My name is Terrell Jolly. A lot of people call me TJ, founder and CEO of Integrity Capital Management. So Integrity Capital Management originally started out as a property management firm, but we slowly transitioned to what is described as an incremental development firm that's focused on situational housing. I know most people say affordable, but we believe in creating housing for people that are actually in need and built to the end user. I believe everyone needs a home because when you have home, you have hope. The reality is that when you're building a business, one thing you don't think about is like what a true banking relationship means. And, I had the honor and privilege of meeting Debbie early on in my career when I was just trying to get going. And as a small business, it's really challenging at times because people don't understand the concept or not believe the longevity because you're just getting started. But Debbie was willing to take a chance on me, be patient with me. I almost look at it like a grassroots initiative. She's seen and believe what I'm about. Anybody that's really true about their business and want to get some things done, I would definitely trust hands down Emprise because Deb's team, along with Aaron and Jackie and all the amazing people that work behind the scenes, even from the treasury side, I would say, hey, give them an opportunity because you won't be disappointed and you will actually be in hands that actually somebody care and that will see you from start to finish.
So to me, top storyline this week brought to you by our good friends at Elenco, elencohome.com, ALENCO home.com to get all your home improvement needs taken care of from some great K-Staters. It's Chris Klieman's response about like money in college football right now, which I know some of that was necessary to answer with because of the way the question was framed and the road he was going down, but also, felt to me almost a little intentional to make sure to put out there like, hey, we need more money to avoid our roster becoming really depleted when we lose guys like Jace Brown or Austin Romaine, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm of two minds on this. One, I thought, well, the most troubling part of the season was when everybody was still healthy and you were playing like the worst Power 4 team in the country with all of those players. So I don't know that that's a totally fair characterization of what happened this season, but I mean, he is right that they could use more depth. That's going to take money. And it feels to me like intentionally at the end of the year here being like, hey, that's kind of a warning shot to everybody. Like, we got to step up. We gotta pump some more money into this roster, or we're not going to be competing for Big 12 championships.
Yeah, it's all going to be about how you choose to absorb and receive that message to that particular question in that particular press conference. Because if you're just raging against the machine right now because you're very pissed off at how Kansas State football has unfolded this year, then you don't want to hear Chris Klieman say, we just won 6-6 because we didn't have enough money. When you lost to Army, should have lost to North Dakota, almost should have beat Arizona. You were 1-4 out of the gates because you looked lethargic, not because you didn't have enough talent or money. Now going forward, it's a different ball game because other programs within your conference and across the country are upping their game, and they're not going to use, for example, revenue share is just a hard cap. They're going to go over that to fund their roster. And Chris Klieman sees that coming, knows that's coming, and is trying to plant seeds into the administration athletic department's heads, like, we need to get our crap together. So if you think that message was for you and to just be satisfied going 6-6 because they didn't have enough resources, because on the surface, that's what Chris Klieman said, you're going to be upset. But if you have a more nuanced and clearer understanding of what he was doing, I think it's fair to not be upset, because I think that was more him delivering a message to both his administration, his AD, the athletic department, that we don't have enough going forward if we want to win at the level we want to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it well, DY. Like, some people will interpret that in a negative light, like me would usually do this season. Is who you're saying? I know you were saying me when you framed it up that way.
I mean, it's fair. That's a bad answer if you're going to view it in that lens. It's a bad.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the present state and looking at it as an excuse for this year's results or anything in recent years, of course that's not acceptable. I think he was also sending a message to the donors and the fan base, et cetera, and to his administration on, what needs to change moving forward to get them more competitive. But I think we all know that Kansas State was pretty competitive on the NIL front for this season specifically, and had the resources in place to be far better than they were. And obviously, if you look at an Arizona at 9-3, a Houston at 9-3 this year, Kansas State had more money and resources than those programs. If you look at Iowa State and Arizona State in the Big 12 championship last year, Kansas State has more resources than those programs when it comes to funding and everything. And so they've underachieved, not because of money. But moving forward, they do need more to play the game, et cetera. So I get the message moving forward, but if you did look at it as an excuse for this year's results, which, again, the way that it was kind of framed up could be taken in that light as well. Then
that's the problem.
That's frustrating, yeah. Like,
that's the problem. Yeah. And that's been Chris Klieman press conferences kind of all year. And that's
all year, baby. All year. You can't get through a single one right now. And this is what, I know the Bruce Weber comp, some people really bristle at that, but it's bringing me back to the Bruce Weber days where I couldn't go to a press conference without getting kind of annoyed at something he said. And yeah, there is some of that, because you make a very good point, Cole. I wouldn't even leave Arizona State and Iowa State to just this year. I would say, or to just last year, rather, this year. They finished 8-4 with, they have way less money in that roster than what K-State has. And they also had half the entire starting defense from the beginning of the year was out by the middle of the season. And they 8-4. That they also beat you, by the way, in week 1 for a third straight year. So yeah, Matt Campbell did not use that as a crutch or an excuse, and he went through and had, I heard it was his, I think, like 6th season over 500 in the Big 12, which there have only been 8 of those in Iowa State history. It was something like that. And then Arizona State, I mean, Sam Leavitt missed basically 5 games this year, almost half the season. Jordan Tyson missed another couple. They still out and finished 8-4 and had a better season than you once again. And Arizona State is another one of those schools that I actually initially I was like, hey, Kenny Dillingham went in a press conference and was like, hey, we're all in and all that. But I think for this year, I don't think they had as much dumped into that roster as K-State did. Arizona State is a school that I think is still building toward, where they hope to be, as opposed to being there right now. So yeah, again, I don't think it's fair to be using that. And once again, it just is the thing that will just bother me. I'm clearly not going to get resolution on this, but the thing that will just bother me the most about this season is the lack of accountability for what the month of September looked like. Because again, I am Bernie Sanders. I am once again asking for somebody to just say, we played like the worst Power 4 football team in America for the month of September, and that's unacceptable. That's terrible. Just say that. Just say that. No one would say it at the time, and even now, it's just you can't really get Chris Klieman to say that in a press conference.
No, instead
it's just all this other stuff. We're going to distract with those. Just say that, dude, because it was that bad. It was that bad.
Yeah, he will say why they were 1-4 and not that it wasn't good enough or that it was unacceptable. And then he'll also say, I was proud to go 6-6 because we started 2-4. A lot of teams start 2-4 and go 3-9. I think that was
which is fine. I'll give him, like, he's absolutely right. We talked a lot about that at the time.
But I don't want to hear that you're proud to go 6-6 because of that start. I want to hear you say that start wasn't acceptable.
I'm fine with him saying he's proud of the team finishing 6-6 if, he had also said the first part. So like it's a totally fair opinion and thing for you to have, and a feeling for you to have, to feel like that about the team, because he's totally right. We have a lot of examples these days of teams where the bottom just falls out when you have that type of start. It definitely requires a very good coaching job to keep a team together like that and not have it turn into that. And it sure looked like it was going that way because, again, they played the month of September like the worst Power 4 football team in the country. So but yes, you just balance it out, man. Balance it out.
Or is the only reason why it didn't bottom out and they got to 6-6 after starting 2-4 is because they played the second worst Big 12 schedule among any team in the league, as Cole's research laid out.
Cole, I will let you make that point. I am just going to say that I have eyes, #eyeballs, R.I.P. Harambe. I have eyeballs. Watching the team, they became drastically different from that UCF game on, outside of a couple blips on the radar, which would be like Oklahoma State and Colorado. They were much, much, much better.
So if you're playing someone else besides the two worst teams in the Big 12,
again though, I mean they played North Dakota and Army and looked horrible. They were a different. They played like they cared. I mean, we said it over and over again. I'm just look. I'm gonna have my grievances. It's fair to point out that they played a pretty easy Big 12 schedule this year, but I'm also going to be fair and say that they performed much better. They played like they cared, and they gave effort, and that was not there in the month of September.
That's fair. They also, I'm just saying, when they played the good teams like Utah and Baylor, they played better, and they still lost. So if they played better teams at Oklahoma State and Colorado, maybe Kansas State's performance in those games looks better, and they probably still lose.
Yeah, I think the point I was trying to make when I had pulled these numbers and I posted them on our Discord and on KSO, et cetera, was Chris Klieman talking about getting to 6-6 and, rebounding, bouncing back. But the frustrating thing, I think, to a lot of people, guys, is that this was an opportunity, maybe more than ever, to have a good season because of the way the schedule shook out. I mean, remember last year, K-State actually had some schedule, like the schedule was far more difficult than I think any of us expected. Nobody expected BYU and Colorado and Arizona State to do what they did last year. Those were teams picked in the bottom 4 or 5 in the Big 12, and they ended up in the top of the league. And so this year, it's kind of a crapshoot. You don't know what the schedule is going to shake out to be, but when you look at how K-State's schedule shook out, K-State played the number 11, number 12, number 13, number 15, and number 16 teams in the final Big 12 standings. The 5 Big 12 teams that K-State defeated went a combined 11-34 in Big 12 play. K-State's, the winning percentage of K-State's opponents, or the record of K-State's opponents in Big 12 play that Kansas State played this year, was a combined 34-47. That's 42%. That is the second lowest winning percentage. Only Houston's opponents in Big 12 play at 33-48, or a winning percentage of 41%, was lower. Arizona, third worst at 46%, etc. So Kansas State had a really easy schedule. You got to play the 2 worst teams in the league. Baylor on the road, heck, they finished 5-7, 3-6, guys. KU 5-7, 3-6. TCU was your best win. They finished 8-4, 5-4 in Big 12 play. That's your best win, but otherwise it's UCF 2-7 in the league, etc. So it's frustrating that you weren't able to do more with the schedule that you were given. And the other thing I would also say is turnover luck is a very real thing. Bill Connolly has the stat on turnover luck. Guys, Kansas State last year forced 15 turnovers. They forced 26 this year. They were 5th in the country in turnovers forced and second among Power 4 schools. That is not a replicable stat typically. And so the fact that Kansas State, with 26 takeaways, still could only get to 6-6 is pretty concerning. Because if they didn't get some of those breaks that they did with some of the turnovers, and yes, they get credit for forcing a lot of them, but also let's remember, guys, a drop punt twice where the punter just dropped the snap against KU and Arizona. Let's remember TCU just throwing a lateral and K-State picking it up and running it in, or Josh Hoover just throwing it right to the K-State defense. Like some of those, yeah, some of those are just like very fortunate breaks they Kansas State got. 6 turnovers and get to 6-6. Like if they didn't get, some of those turnovers they did, we could be talking about a 4-8 or 3-9 football team. And so that I bring that up because turnover luck is a real stat, and Kansas State was pretty fortunate on that side this year.
My only pushback on the 26 forced turnovers thing, which I think all your points are valid, is that 5 of them did come against Oklahoma State, or 6, right? So it was very. So
they lose that game, BY, if they don't get those. Like they lose to the worst.
Maybe. But, yeah, probably. But Oklahoma State also didn't have the ability to score. So maybe I would say maybe.
Most of those came inside K-State's 30-yard line.
Yeah.
Anyways, and remember Arizona had the drop punt, but
I will say to nullify that, that's 25% of your forced turnovers came in one game. Almost. And secondly, I would also say to also nullify some of the 25, 26 forced takeaways is you gave up basically a special teams touchdown every week. So, what are we doing? Or turnover. I mean, yeah. Kids, they turned the ball, special teams probably turned the ball over more in the offense this year. Did that shake out?
Well, I mean, yeah, K-State's offense probably finished. I didn't look up what K-State's.
No, I looked it up the other day. Do I know the offense finally did sadly overtake special teams late in the year with more turnovers on the season. Yeah, I mean, but Cole was talking about overall turnovers force, not turnover margin. But I mean, you're right. The turnover margin, if your special teams unit wasn't just giving the ball away every single week, would have been quite a bit different. So
and this is not. Again, I'm not justifying or putting excuses in here, but even if they did start to capitalize on that dreadful Big 12 schedule that they were basically had the luxury of playing, like Arizona and Houston took advantage of it. Let's just be honest; they both went 9-3, right? So, yeah, so Kansas State, that's a black eye. You couldn't even do what Arizona and Houston did, and you have more talent than they did. I think we can all say going into the season. My thing is, if they did take advantage of it, by week 9, week 10 is when the injuries would have killed them at that point, viably.
Yeah, that's a great call out though on Houston and Arizona. DY the third and then the easiest schedule. So those teams are right with K-State in terms of schedule difficulty, and those were programs that didn't make a bowl last year that won 4 games each, and this year they get to 9 wins each, which to me should have been the floor for this K-State football team. When you look at what his schedule was, Kansas State should have won at a minimum 9 games of the schedule because Houston and Arizona were capable of doing it. You should have been able to do that, if not more. And so,
you basically should have been the schedule merchant that BYU was last year.
Yeah. So, anyways, my biggest frustration with the press conference again, the money thing was frustrating how you take it, but Chris Klieman's response to Mason's question about 6-6 when you're picked to be the Big 12 champs, and him saying, well, that's why we don't have polls, as a justification. The way that people could interpret that is you guys shouldn't have expected us to be that good. That's your fault. And that is bothersome to me, because it was almost like he gave a dismissive answer to oh, if you don't make it to the Big 12 championship every year, it's a failure, apparently. He was almost speaking that that shouldn't be the standard. And again, we all know that's not realistic to make it to the Big 12 championship every year, but it was just almost dismissive of you guys don't know what you're talking about picking these teams. And last year you all picked Arizona to finish last and they took first. And so,
yeah,
that's frustrating to me to hear, because it comes across as, well, you shouldn't have had expectations that we win the Big 12. That's not fair.
See, it was set up to be an opportunity. He said this year wasn't good enough. We were better than our 6-6 record. ended up being. Instead, he's like, his answer came across as maybe we were just a 6-6 football team.
He did at one point say, in fairness to him, he did slip in there that like we're not satisfied at all, and this is not like what we're there was a teeny bit of that. Some of this, Cole, is just it comes down to this, and I think it's a fair enough question to ask, but we've just discussed it. Like we've seen a whole season's worth of these press conferences. With Bruce Weber, at a certain point, you just got to, hey man, the guy's not going to give you the answers that you want. Like it is what it is. Like it's very apparent where he's at and how he feels, and he's even if internally they have some of the feeling that you would want them to have, he's not going to say it publicly. That's been established. It's very clear here. So you can keep insanity definition, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. You can keep hoping for that, but I wouldn't suggest it because that's just not going to happen.
I think he probably has similar or identical thoughts to all of us about how this season unfolded, but he doesn't express those publicly, and he's very averse to negative comments at all that could come off even a little bit as a crack to either his coaches or players following a win.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. I just wanted to say as well on the Houston and Arizona thing, man, I probably should have made that point instead of Iowa State, Arizona State. Houston does not have money. Willie Fritz got money ripped and lost his defensive coordinator this offseason to Texas Tech, like within the conference, and then had to go play him. And still 9-3. Like Willie Fritz is doing it on a shoestring budget at Houston. Arizona almost fired Brent Brennan last year, and he came through and did it too. I don't think they're just popping at the seams with money. So yeah.
A sign that money's changing at some of these schools is like Houston does have like the number one quarterback committed, and I'm sure that takes a devotion of resources.
Yeah, but it's also not as much as if you were getting a quarterback like that in the portal. Like if you're going to spend it in high school. I think.
Yeah, well, the number one quarterback in high school, I think, is a little bit different though.
Coached by Michael Bishop, right?
Yeah, and there's rumors that Michael Bishop is going with him to Houston next year. So,
oh boy, that'd be tough. And Colin Klein coaching at another P4 school, and have Michael Bishop.
I don't know if Michael Bishop's really on the Colin Klein trajectory.
Don't. I was about to make a joke. I'll tell you guys off air as we go to break. We're back with more in just a moment.
What's up, guys? It is Benny Heiss, KCSN betting analyst, and Missouri. Your moment is finally here. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is now live right here in the state. So now you can make every game so much more exciting with same-game parlays, money lines, props, and more, all from your phone, and it's all safe, secure, and easy to use. And listen, we know fans in the state of Missouri know game day, whether it's the tailgates, the noise, the passion. And now with DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bring that same energy to every snap, every touchdown, and every win. Right now, new Missouri customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. There's no waiting, no nonsense, just pure action powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. So here's what you do. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code KCSN. Code KCSN. Remember, new Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code KCSN. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Remember, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Bonus bets expire 7 days after they're issued. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, please see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
All right. Where do we want to go from here? Should we? Look, I do feel like there's a segment of the fan base that would care about the bowl destination here. Okay. Independence Bowl, Armed Forces Bowl, Liberty Bowl. What are we thinking here, DY?
The two that I was told by multiple sources now, a second one came in late last night, is that the belief is very strong that it's going to be the Independence Bowl or the Liberty Bowl. Everyone's like, Liberty Bowl, why would they take Kansas State? Well, I think there is a pecking order. We know how this goes, but like Kansas State last year, some schools are willing to forego the luxurious opportunity to go to Memphis to play in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl and go to, say, the Rape Bowl or even the Armed Forces Bowl. And I think you'll probably see some of that, especially if Iowa State is the one that falls in line for a Liberty Bowl opportunity. I think they might elect to go elsewhere. They've been there a couple times now. In recent years, KU has as well, but obviously they're not going to a bowl game. Had to stick that in there. So I'm thinking Independence Bowl or Liberty Bowl. It sounds, and I know there's bowl projections out there. Even Brett McMurphy at Kansas State in the Rate Bowl, and his projections last night, ESPN had first responders or armed forces. I'm not going to completely eliminate armed forces, but I just don't think those are all very likely. I think it's Independence or Liberty. And opponent-wise, Independence Bowl, you'd be looking at against Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech, Kennesaw State, or Jacksonville State. One of those 4 Conference USA teams. Liberty Bowl, probably Tennessee or LSU, because I don't think they'd send Mizzou back.
Yeah, so the Independence Bowl is also like it could be an American Athletic Conference team, right? DY?
Well, if there's enough Conference USA teams, it'll be a Conference USA team, and I think there is.
Oh, okay. I'd seen East Carolina mocked.
I think some of these people that do these are kind of.
I mean, I don't look actively anymore. I'm not, if you guys.
Cole, you look at
You just were able to say they had East Carolina mocked to one, so you are looking.
Because people were texting me that yesterday. I was pulling up the bowl affiliations to see what conference,
It's Conference USA, and I think it's based on if they have enough teams. I assume they do because they have like 5 or 6 with a winning record.
Yeah. So, Independence Bowl is December 30th. Probably more conducive to a schedule you want to be on versus the Liberty Bowl on January 2nd, the day that the portal opens. So, hey, you could have your whole team together on the day the portal opens, playing in the bowl game. I think they'll end up in the Independence Bowl. If the Big 12 were to get 2 teams in the college football playoff, I believe they would end up in the Liberty Bowl. But that would require probably BYU beating Texas Tech in the conference championship in order for that to happen. So, I would anticipate Independence Bowl for Kansas State. Go back there for the first time since 1982. It was a 1982 team. Time to get that trophy.
Cole, deep down, you know that there's a part of you that's like wanting to go check the bowl thing. You got to know what's coming up for your Cats. I know that there's a thread inside of you deep down that's just being pulled at. Like I gotta go refresh Brett McMurphy's bowl projections.
I mean, I haven't looked at them once this year. I did make a pitch to Vanessa yesterday about taking the family to Shreveport for the holidays, and that was met with much disdain. So, very toxic response by Vanessa on that.
The net in basketball was just released for the first time in the last 2 minutes. Kansas State is 55.
That's way better than it was last year when the net first came out, and I believe Kansas State was in the 90s. So,
Cats.
Average opponent net rank. I don't know if this is just teams that they played or teams that they will play, but Kansas State says 27, pretty high.
Well, I'm going to be trying to go to the game Saturday against Seton Hall. That's going to be a big one. Actually, shaping up to be that way. Seton Hall's going to come in 8-1 and top 60 in the net. What's Seton Hall? Do you want? What are they in the net?
You'll have to give me time, so you guys will have to talk a little bit here.
Well, cool. First, we got Marcus Johnson revenge game tonight against
Look past Bowling Green. 5-2 team picked to finish 7th out of 13 teams in the preseason Mid-American Conference projections. Campbell, the guard, first team preseason All-MAC, good player. We could talk some Bowling Green if you want. 5-2 basketball team coming to Manhattan tonight on Monday. So get 6-2 and then focus in on Seton Hall on Saturday, which was 61 in Ken Palm, I believe, last time I checked.
Seton Hall is 50 in the net. So
50. That's damn near quad one. Wait, no, they gotta be top 30 for
so Kansas State's 55, Seton Hall is 50. Creighton is 119.
Ooh. Okay, that's not good because that means that's a quad 2 loss if you lose that game at Creighton now. So now that they can get it corrected.
Yeah, let's give him some time. It's early,
Said that last year, but yeah. I think McDermott will probably figure it out at least a little bit to be somewhat respectable, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get into the top 75, so they're a quad one. So, all right, well, that's interesting stuff. By the way, Tulsa won the Azecure Championship tournament, defeated Northern Iowa to hand them their first loss. Tulsa now 6-1 on the season, guys, and when I said Tulsa could be a postseason team, Tulsa now is like top 85 in KenPom. They're creeping on up.
More net rankings here. Indiana is 11.
Oh, wow.
Tulsa is 27.
Tulsa's 27? Wow.
Nebraska is
Let's
28.
go.
Nebraska is 28.
28. Oh, my God. We have played the toughest schedule in America. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I'm looking for
What's
I'm looking for Mississippi State and Cal. Cal is 52.
Mississippi State's not going to be pretty, DY. They went to overtime against New Orleans. They had to come back from 9 down.
Damn it, Chris Jans, figure your shit out, man. Come on.
And they were down 9 to New Orleans with 2 minutes left. And they came back to get it to overtime. Then they lost in overtime to SMU this week.
Yeah, Mississippi State is 172.
You idiots from Stark Hill have blown it for us. So,
Man.
New Orleans did beat TCU, and TCU just beat Florida.
And
So
TCU won the whole thing. They beat Florida and someone else.
they beat Wisconsin too.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't think TCU was worth a damn.
They lost to New Orleans, but beat Florida and Wisconsin.
Thanks for the wonderful news this morning on the net stuff. We needed that when we were talking about Shreveport and the Independence Bowl.
So you played 3 teams in the top 28, lost to 2 of them.
Tulsa 27th in the net. I knew that was the Final Four team when I watched them.
Cole, I will say this is not how you beat the allegations that you are way tougher on the football program than the basketball program when you're sitting here celebrating the net rankings of teams the basketball program has lost to because you're so down about talking about bowl game possibilities for the football program.
Well, let me go find the net rankings of Army. So let's see how that shaped up. So anyways.
That was a good one-liner. I'll give you that.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Try not to be as much of a curmudgeon lately. That comment from Bobcat9337 really hurt my feelings on the show. So
Here's my thing with the bowl game. Like, I don't like when I start seeing like Kennesaw State as an opponent. First of all, like, what are we doing here? Second of all, that's the type of thing that really scares me because it's like it's whatever. Go, who knows who's going to be playing in the bowl game? Like, just go do that. But yeah, I mean, Nick says Kennesaw had a great season. Yeah, exactly. I am not in the business of having the program waltz out there with nobody left to play and losing a game to Kennesaw State. Like, that sounds awful. I don't want to do that. I don't want to put the program through that. If you go to the Liberty Bowl and you play Tennessee, I mean, fine. So you lose to Tennessee, like, okay, whatever. Or they'll probably have, a skeleton crew of a roster too. That LSU will. We've been there, done that in the Texas Bowl a few years ago. Like, I'm fine with that. I don't need another embarrassment. Wasn't Navy one of the projected opponents in one of this too? Like, I get the armed forces all the way out of here. Get them away from me. I never want to see Army or Navy. Thankfully, it hasn't been Air Force, but they can go away too. I don't need to see any of them on a football field against my team. Ever, ever, ever.
let me check to see if Air Force is also bowl eligible, John, because the opportunity,
I don't think they are.
the sweep over the, I don't think they are.
Air Force is pretty bad. They lost. We'll see. You guys talk. Yeah.
What did Army finish, by the way, Cole?
I'll have to look that up. I believe they just beat UTSA. So
They did, and then there were Jeff Monken was like fighting with Jeff Traylor after the game. There was like some. They were 6-5.
I tell you what, our Jeff Traylor gets in some heated.
Air Force went 4-8.
So not bowl eligible. Okay. So Army 6-5, and then they got Navy So
6-5, but then like somehow they lost to Tulsa. That was like Tulsa's only win in the American at that point.
okay, interesting.
Tulsa at number 27, the net just extends the football, man.
Well, I mean, yeah, they're a basketball school. We all know this. Tulsa's heavy basketball school.
They beat Oklahoma State and Army. What a season.
Yeah, I will say that I've watched some Navy this year, guys. Navy is far better than Army. So it would be really advisable to avoid playing Navy in the bowl because
it would be real advisable just avoiding a group of 5 team altogether, to be quite honest.
I'm going to start calling around to the bowl reps and advocating for Kansas State. I could bring a bowl rep on the show. You want me to bring the Independence Bowl guy on the show? I mean, remember when you used to have to do that? Like,
Hey, shout out to my guy. I don't know if he's still there, but Harold Grader at the Liberty Bowl, because I had him on about 17 times because that was, Snyder 2.0 was a very Liberty Bowl program past 2012. So
you only went there once under Snyder, 15
twice.
No,
I guess it was Klieman. You're right. It was okay. Well, okay. Yeah, the first year after Snyder left, that era of football, Cole, was very Liberty Bowl-esque.
The best one that I ever talked to, bull rep, was Mike Baker. I don't know, not Mike Baker. I can't remember. Last name was Baker, I believe. Cotton Bowl president. He was fantastic to deal with. And for the Arkansas game in 2012 or 2011, 2012, whatever day it was in the calendar year. He was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, those guys are mostly just salespeople trying to push their bowl. So
I still have a Cotton Bowl garment bag from that Cotton Bowl.
Nick says in the chat, Navy's 9-2, so I'm assuming they would not get Navy. Nick, let me tell you a story about Kansas State's bowl history where they're 10-1, 11-1, 11-0, or not 11-0, but 10-1. How many times, John, did they end up playing like unranked teams as a top 7, top 8 team in the polls and bowl games? Like the Holiday Bowl. I mean, Washington, Arizona State, K-State's top 10, and those teams are unranked. I mean,
Colorado State in 95, even in the Holiday Bowl. Yeah.
So there's that damn Holiday Bowl, which is a blast, but, often ended up in really difficult games outside of Colorado State. They blew them out. So,
yeah. Boy, that's a bygone era, Cole.
Purdue in the Alamo Bowl, I didn't want to bring up that year, though, but,
Yeah. That's Cole. My heart ached a little bit watching the. Maybe it was just on Twitter. It was during the A&M Texas game, and it was brought up that Texas A&M has not played for a conference championship since.
Yeah, I was telling Brody about that while we were watching the game.
Don't tell him about. Don't ruin his life with that.
I did. My mother-in-law told me to stop because I was explaining to him that we'll always hate Texas A&M, and then I was explaining to him the game again as a reminder in '98, and I had told him, and this is where my mother-in-law jumped in and was like, "Could you not share that?" I was like, "Yeah, Brody." And after we lost, I was sitting in a ditch with some friends, and we just laid there in the dark, And I guess that was oversharing because you don't want to build that type of culture to where you go sit in a ditch in the dark after a loss. It's just a game. So
the only thing that I would ever accept as being equal to that, because the whole story is, it's not just that K-State blows a 17-point lead, a 15-point lead in the fourth quarter, and loses in double overtime when Michael Bishop trips over Eric Hickson, when he would have run into the end zone in the first overtime, when it was like 3rd and like 20, and it was going to be a tough field goal when Sir Parker had the play. Anyway, it's not just all of that. It's that going into the game, you were 3rd in the BCS, and Miami was a massive underdog at UCLA, I think. And then it's in the middle of the game. You get the upset, and you're like, holy crap, this is going to happen. You're up by 17, and the only thing I will ever accept as being more devastating than that, potentially, is West Virginia fans being a 28.5-point home favorite over their arch rival with a trip to the national championship on the line and losing 13-9. That's the only thing I would ever accept as being as painful a college football loss as what K-State experienced in 1998.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you from the Ohio State angle how that year went. I was 9-year-old DY there, and it was one of the few years that John Cooper actually beat Michigan. The problem, he lost to 4-7 Michigan State that year. You know who the coach of Michigan State was?
Nick Saban.
Nick Saban.
Philippe, guys, I believe Ohio State played in the Nokia Sugar Bowl that year, DY. Is that right?
Crushed,
Yeah.
or they went to the Citrus Bowl and lost to Tennessee.
No, I think they played Texas A&M in the Sugar Bowl.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay. There was a year they went to Sugar Bowl, got crushed by Florida State. A year went to the Citrus Bowl, got crushed by Peyton Manning in Tennessee. I do remember the A&M Sugar Bowl as well. But I remember on Championship Saturday, because from Ohio State standpoint, they needed UCLA to lose. They did. They needed Kansas State to lose. They did. They needed Tennessee to lose, but they beat Mississippi State.
Oh, also, I forgot to include in there that Ever Burnett caught a Hail Mary on the last play of regulation, but he was like a yard and a half short of
Who did UCLA? I think that was like their Cade McNown team. They lost to somebody in that their conference title game that year. And Ohio State needed them to lose, and they did. But I think Tennessee beat Mississippi State in the SEC title game or something like that.
Arkansas was pretty good that year.
Tennessee went on to, was that when they had T. Martin and won the national title that year?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
T. Martin and Peerless Price.
Would have destroyed T. Martin and Tennessee.
Oh,
They had T. Martin, Travis Henry, and Peerless Price, I think.
We beat Travis Henry in the Cotton Bowl in 2000. They had Jason Witten, Travis Henry, John Henderson, Albert Haynes.
Well, if that was Travis Henry, maybe the 98 one wasn't. Maybe 98 was Jamal Lewis.
Then that 98 or that 2000 Tennessee team had like 15 pros on it that K-State, handled pretty easily. They had Dante Stallworth. 3 of the receivers ended up in the NFL, but they had Casey Clausen throwing to them.
Yeah, in 98 they won the national title in 98, yeah.
well, now it's come full circle. I think what that should tell everybody is that it's going to be K-State, Tennessee in the Liberty Bowl. That's what's going to go down. And Cole, well, I say it'll be Josh Heupel coaching the team then, which would be a nice little, maybe K-State can extract some revenge there for the times that Josh Heupel ripped our freaking hearts out. But maybe he'll be the head coach of Penn State by then.
Yeah, with the rumors are Heupel and Sataki there, but they said Heupel turned it down, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Would you rather be at Penn State or Tennessee?
Tennessee, I think.
That's a good question.
Because Penn State, I tell you, dude, the Big Ten, the James Franklin special, you go beat a bunch of mediocre to bad teams, get your ass kicked by Ohio State, and then fall into the playoff. So that's not a bad setup.
Yeah, but the problem with Penn State is now the threshold is higher because of James Franklin.
Yeah. All right. I guess we could mercifully cut this off here at the end. You have anything left on the K-State football season? We're going to have plenty of time to talk about the offseason. I know there are a ton of questions, about the offseason and where you go from here. But I figure, there will be plenty of time for that. Much like Chris Klieman in the press conference, I'm going to say, hey, we're going
to get a beer.
We're going to go have a beer and not worry about that right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Wish you would have said that he was going to go have some Ben Holiday bottle and Mon Bourbon.
Then Cole would have changed his entire narrative.
Well, Cole, I assume that you'll send him a bottle of that with your Christmas card that will be arriving at Chris Kleiman's doorstep.
I'll send it as a celebratory gift when I win the Independence Bowl. So, yeah.
Kennesaw, you got nothing, Kennesaw. You're the worst KSU. About that.
Kennesaw's actually pretty salty, John. Let's not mock Kennesaw State. I have watched them this year as well. So we have to take every opponent seriously, no matter who they are.
Whoever wins is the real KSU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, anyways, let's talk more net rankings. This is fascinating. Let's just do a whole show on the damn net. It's beautiful. Love it.
We'll have plenty of basketball.
Cole can't celebrate a 6-6 football team, but he can celebrate a 55th ranked basketball team.
Exactly. Once again, what is K-State and you know what? I'm looking up K-State and SP Plus just to hammer this point home.
No, you can't do that because there's 300 plus teams. There's 350 teams or so in college basketball. There's 136 in college football. So top 60.
Yeah, but there's the same amount of Power 4 teams.
Oh, no, because you got Power 6 in basketball. You got the Big East. You got that doesn't really play football. All right. You got all those powers in some of these other leagues. So don't be trying to twist your narrative to talk shit on my basketball team. All right. You got and your narrative turning. I don't like it. I don't like what you're trying to do here.
I regret to inform you, Cole, that K-State is 47th in the S&P Plus. So you will burn down the 47th ranked football program in the country and laud the accomplishments of the 55th best basketball program in the country. Not beating those allegations, Cole. Not beating those allegations.
So K-State's in the top 16% of college basketball, being 55th in the net, and K-State football at, 47 divided by 136. So that's going to put them in the top 35%. So a 20% differential Kansas State basketball and football right now.
Are you sure it was the 16% right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I took 55 divided by like 340 college basketball teams. So don't try to challenge my math, guys. So I haven't really run. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So there you go, guys. So
it's a good spin. All right. Thanks to Holiday. Thanks to I was about to say thanks to Ben Holiday, Bottled and Bond Bourbon there for the end of the show. Thanks to Alenko. Appreciate Nick Springer behind the scenes. For DY and Cole, I'm John. Thanks for listening to another edition of Three Maw. Take care, and we will talk to you soon.